Welcome back to the Project House, everybody. I'm Jim Viebrock. Today we're going to do a veneer stone over the sheathing on this house. Now, this is a project that has a lot of different things happening. This is a brand new deck, so we want to be very careful not to get it dirty or damage it in any way as we're dealing with these heavy materials coming across the deck. And the mortar will kind of stick in the little crevices and scratches and stuff. So the first thing I want to do is just protect our surface. We've got craft paper down. You can use any type of paper or protectant to just keep your workspace nice and clean. It also makes it easy to sweep it up when it's all said and done. This process is very messy, so just keep that in mind as you're moving forward. One of the things that we need to talk about before we get started is you need to have all of your tools rounded up and ready to go before you start mixing your mortar, because once you start the mortar, you've kind of set a clock in motion and you've got a limited time to work with it. So let's talk briefly about the different tools that we are going to need. One of the things that's going to be most beneficial to you is a grinder. This is a diamond blade. It's a 4.5-inch diamond blade. You can use an abrasive cutoff blade. It just won't last as long as this. And I'll show you how to cut one of the blocks with that shortly. You're probably going to want a masonry hammer. The main reason for that is just simply because this is a manufactured product. And there's some little tabs on here that you're going to want to knock off. If we were actually building with stone, this hammer would be very beneficial because you'd be chipping the edges and shaping your stone with it. So it's a good tool to pick up when you're going. You're going to need a bottle of water that you can spray, because as we go forward here, we're going to need to keep this wet, and we're going to need to wet the back sides of our veneer stone. Okay, so let's talk about surface preparation. Depending on what surface you're using, and in this video we're going to show you 3 different surfaces. We're going to show you going over the sheathing of the house, like this one. We're going to show you concrete block, and then we're going to show you putting it directly on concrete. But for today, the most part we're going to talk about is putting it over the sheathing. Now, the manufacturer says that you can put your expanded wire mesh right over top of your waterproof membrane. So what I mean by that is, in the anatomy of a house, you most likely will have a plywood here on top of your studs for the exterior. You're going to need to put a waterproof membrane on there, and they recommend 2 layers. So that can be tar paper, that can be that Tyvek type of plastic, some kind of barrier, vapor barrier between the inside of the house and the outside of the house. You need at least 2 layers of that. In this case, I used tar paper, 30-pound tar paper. I'm old school. Nothing wrong with the new modern products at all. It's just what I had laying around, and that's what we use today. Okay, once your vapor barrier is in place, we need to talk about the expanded wire mesh. And what I mean by that is this product right here. This comes in a sheet that's about 8 feet long and about 32 inches wide. You're going to cut it with tin snips, but I've got to tell you, you need to be very careful because this will cut you. It's very sharp, these edges are. How you attach this is you attach it horizontally on your wall, right on top of the vapor barrier. And most people will use roofing nails to do it. I actually used screws that I put a washer on so I could pick up a large surface of this. And you want to do that about every 6 to 8 inches all the way through this grid pattern, all the way on your wall. Now, the reason for that, this is very important. This is the structure that keeps the whole thing from moving as it expands and contracts. So without this, you're likely going to have your veneer stones pop off over time, and that's undesirable because you don't want to have to come back and fix this, especially after you've already got the mortar joints in. It becomes a problem. So don't skip this step. This is very important to put this on there. What I did, one extra step here above and beyond what the manufacturer wants. I like to overbuild some things, and I'd like to hear your comments in the comment section about what you think about what I'm getting ready to tell you. Beneath my scratch coat, there is a concrete board here. It's a Hardy Backer product, comes in a 3-foot by 5-foot sheet. It's 1/2-inch concrete. So on top of my vapor barrier, I put a sheet of concrete board here. Now, the disadvantage to it is it does build out your wall surface a 1/2 inch. So you may have to compensate for it on your trim. You may have to put double trim on, something like that. That's the downfall to it. But for me, it helped create a stronger bonding surface for the scratch coat that goes between the concrete board on the back, the wire mesh, and then the scratch coat. So I'd make that extra step. I'd like to hear what you think about that, especially those of you who lay the stone daily. But anyway, so from there, we're going to go to the scratch coat, and that's what you see on the wall here. Once the mesh is on, you're going to mix up your Type S Sierra or Sam Type S mortar, and you're going to smear about 3/8 to a ½ inch coat over top of this wire mesh. What that does is it incorporates all of that together. It makes it very tight, very bondable surface for when you put your stone on there. So this is very important. Now you can put it on with just a regular trowel. These are tiling trowels. I used a serrated edge because I like the smaller grooves on it. You can use a 1/4 inch tiling square for the mortar as well for your scratch coat. What you want to do is smear it on there 3/8 to a ½ an inch, and then have a rough surface, smooth but rough surface on there to allow for your stones to bond to. Okay, so from there, let's go down and mix some mortar, and we'll start laying some stone. Okay, let's talk about the mortar for just a minute and some safety about mixing it. This, like concrete, has a silicone base to it, and if you inhale too much of it, it's going to be a problem. Also, it can give you a chemical burn. So you kind of develop an immunity over a time when you use concrete and mortar, but you may notice that your hands dry out a bunch, and you may even get some sores on there. So just try to limit your exposure to the direct concrete mix or mortar mix as you do it. So what you want to do is add a little water to it. This is a pre-mixed mortar that you buy at the big box retailer. It's Type S, as in Sierra or Sam. There are different types of mortars, but for this project, we're going to use Type S. So all I want to do is just add a little water to it slowly and fold it in. I'm looking for a mayonnaise-like consistency in this case. You don't want it too wet because then it'll be running. You'll have to hold your stone on the wall longer than you want to. You don't want it too dry or it won't stick at all. But remember, the drier the mix, the stronger the bond. So that's what we're looking for, is a nice balance between the water and the mortar mix. So the stone that I'm using has 5 or 6 different thicknesses or widths of stone. You can see them kind of laying here. And it's just a puzzle. You literally go pick through your pieces and start to lay this together. So I've got these 2 stones. I'm going to place them here and here. And that will then break up this line that I've got going across there. Now, how do you know that you're still running level? Which is very important. This is one of the rules you cannot break. Get a level, and on your scratch coat, randomly, you're going to go along there, and you're going to find your level spot. Got my level in my bubble there. Then you're going to take a scribing tool and just scratch you a line on there to show you where it's level. Now, I got to be cautious with you here. I don't want you to put your stone to that level, okay? Because that's going to create that layer that we were talking about a minute ago. All it is a point to where you could take a tape measure and kind of make sure that your rows are running level and you're not porpoising as you go across there. So this is a reference line, not a shoot-to line, if that makes sense. You can see them, I've got them all throughout this wall, and it's just a line to show that I'm putting my stone in flat. Now, how do you know you're putting your stone in flat? Take your stone. 3 of these edges are going to be wavy. 1 edge is going to be pretty straight. So that's how you can keep track of how level your stone is, because if you put it up here crooked, when you're right next to it, you may not be able to see it. And this is pretty exaggerated, but over the course, this would get pretty bad. So this just allows you to be able to see I'm running level or pretty level. You may not be at this line. You may be down here. But I can still see that proportionally, I've got about 1.5 inches. I got 1.5 inches versus 1.5 inches, 1 3/4 inches. So that's a rule that you've got to keep in mind as you're going across there. The other one, 3, no more than 4, because you want to break it up. The rest of it is pure creativity. So you're just going to put it together. Now, let's put a piece on here. So I mentioned earlier, you needed a bottle of water. The reason for that is you've got to keep this wet. this is dry, this is dry, your mortar is wet. So the dry concrete will try to pull the moisture out of the wet mortar. And if you do that, then your chemical reaction in the mortar isn't going to take place properly. So you're going to go through here all the way through this wall as you're working and keep this wet. And that makes that bond stronger as you go. So you just making sure it's wet with your, or you can use a hose. But like I said, I'm up against the house on a brand new deck. Same thing. I'm just going to wet this down. I've located my flat side. Doesn't have to be up or down. Doesn't matter. And I'm just going to put my mortar on here. I'm going to knock it off. And just like this. Put my mortar on. And then I'm going to place this piece. Now, you're going to have to hold it. I don't like that. Let's go this way. You're going to have to hold it for just a few seconds. Press it in firmly. You're going to have to hold it on big pieces. You may be holding it 30 seconds to a minute, maybe a little longer. But you're just waiting for it to adhere, to stick, which is really weird. When I first started doing masonry, I just couldn't figure out how this worked. But it's a chemical reaction. It's really pretty cool. And it's very satisfying to watch. The mortar joint we're going for is about the size of my pinky. So you'll see me sticking my fingers in here from time to time just to make sure that it's right. And I'm going to hold it. And just like that, I can defy gravity. Pretty cool. So we're going to do it again. I'm going to make sure I'm wet. I'm going to put it in here like that. Put my mortar on. I'm doing about a ½ inch, not quite. Thick. And I'm just cleaning off the edges. And now I'm going to put this one in here. And you're going to see that right there I've got some inconsistent mortar joints. That's okay. It's part of the visual look of your wall. It'll get filled in with mortar, so it'll all be fine. But if you were laying a stone wall, those stones don't fit perfectly. And so you're going to have some mortar joints. So again, I'm just holding this for 15, 20, 30 seconds, depending on the size of the block. And it's not quite ready yet. Still not yet. Temperature is going to affect this too. If it's cool out or high humidity, you're going to have to hold this a little bit longer. Okay, that's going to kind of stick there. Now, you're just going to repeat this all throughout. And you can see I've broke this line now with all these different heights. And this, over the course of the project, makes this look really, really good. Okay, so I mentioned the horizontal line, but in the course of doing this video, I realized that I've got a vertical line starting to form here too. So what I want to do is break that up so that you can't see it. So I went and found this piece, and I'm going to put it here because it'll match here. And I've got about 3 inches here. Ideally, you want 4 inches or more on your overlaps, but this block fits pretty nice here. I'm going to go ahead and put it in here because the next two pieces kind of fit nicely here. And then I'm going to show you how to cut one when we're done with that. So again, we start with wetting this area down and just kind of keeping it wet, the whole area I'm going to be working on. I'm going to wet my stone because I don't want it taking the moisture away. And you probably can't see it on the camera, but it's just seconds after I wet that, and this is already starting to dry. This concrete is really drawing that moisture in. And so it's going to do that to your mortar as well. So that's why you're doing this. It would absolutely take the moisture right out of your mortar. So let's talk about, while I'm waiting for this one, again, like I said, I got it this a little wet. While I'm waiting, let's say that you accidentally knock one of your blocks loose after it's set. It won't hold again. You're going to have to take it off, scrape the mortar off again, re-wet it, and reset it. Okay, now let's talk about cutting one. So I've got a piece laying here that I cut previously. You've got these finished edges, so when you cut this along the back, you're going to have a straight edge, and so I don't cut it all the way through. I cut it about 85, 90% of the way through, and then I'll whack it on something else to give me that rough edge. Then you can put a little mortar on this new broken edge, and it'll kind of help make it look uniform when you look at the wall. Now, I think the mortar pretty much covers all that, but it's just a good idea to make sure this isn't a straight edge when you do it. So let me show that to you. You really ought to have a mask on when you do this. There's a lot of dust, but I'm going to show it to you so I can talk. Just grab you a line, pencil, nail, whatever. Just grab you a line. Turn this on. Safety glasses and a mask. Don't do what I'm doing. Do what you should be doing. Anyway, I've scribed that. Just knock it along like that. You've now got an edge that you can use there. If you don't like it completely, now I've got a nice edge. Just put you a little bit of mortar on the back side of this before you hang the piece, and then it'll look like a finished edge on it when you hang it. Well, unfortunately, working in the wintertime, you run out of daylight faster than you run out of energy. So we're going to pick this up again tomorrow. We've got 2/3 of it done, and we'll be finishing this up in the morning hours probably tomorrow. Got my windowsill in, and then we're going to come back after we let this sit for a total of 24 hours for the whole thing, and we'll start putting a grout in there. So stay with me. We'll be right back. Now, at the beginning of the video, I gave you hard and fast rules. Try to abide by them the best you can, but there's going to be circumstances come up where you just can't, or you missed it going on. So don't back up and take rocks off. Just go with it, because in the grand scheme of things, you're just not really going to be able to see it. So as you can tell, today we've made good progress. We got this part of the wall done. As you start across a header, you've got a decision to make. Do you want it to look like a header, or do you want it to continue to look like the randomness of the wall? We didn't put a header in, so in this case, you're looking to continue on breaking that up. You don't want a whole bunch of large stones across there with very few seams. You want to keep putting your seams and your joints in there. Yes, it's more work, but you will like it better if you do it that way. Same thing with this corner. We're going to break this up. So what I've got going here is a few stones pre-cut to go in there. Same thing. You don't want to just go find a big long one and stand it up here. You're not going to like how that looks. You're going to want to go through here with individual, different size pieces of stone. The hard part of this project is done, but now you're going to have to put your mortar or your grout in the seams. So what we've done, we've taken the same mortar, the Type S mortar that we've used elsewhere. Now you can get colored mortar. If you're going to go with a colored mortar, you're just going to buy that and mix it up. You're going to mix your mortar considerably more liquid than before, because what we're going to use is a piping bag. So they have these giant piping bags for this if you're going to do a whole bunch of it. But since I had some small spots, I actually went and stole one from my wife when she finds out I'm going to be in trouble. But I actually like it. So it's a little bit smaller, and we've got wind today to deal with, so you're going to have to be patient with me. But here's the piping bag, and we're just simply going to take this runnier mix of mortar, and we're going to come in here and literally just squeeze it back in our joints like this. And I like to give it a little bit of a motion, kind of like I'm welding, but a lot of you won't know what that reference is. But it just kind of lets it lay back in there, and you're really forcing it back in there. And because it's liquid, you're going to be able to fill in any gaps that you may have had when you put the stones on the wall. So we're going to do this all the way around. This makes this way easier than trying to tuck point all of this, because this, as you can tell, I'm able to go pretty quick with this to fill in all of these different gaps. Now, the beautiful thing about mortar that I like is that you can start and stop. So if you ended up getting to the end of a bag or a mix and had to stop and go do something else, it's okay, because you can come back tomorrow, because you can tell, you know, we've already got mortar joints throughout some of the rest of this, where we did this yesterday. And so you can just come back You can come back and start anytime that you need to. And you can see this is just going so much faster than trying to tuck point that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to let this set for, I don't know, 20, 30 minutes, let it kind of set up a little bit. Then I'm going to bring a tuck pointing tool in to just kind of smooth out my lines. Then I'm going to use a dry nylon brush and shape it. So we're going to get that going for you here in just a second. All right, here's a tip when you're using the smaller or even the bigger of the piping bags or the grouting bags. These things are really hard to hold open while you're putting the mortar down in them. Of course, they might leak out of the bottom. So what I've done is I just folded the tip over, put a paper clip, or a clothespin on it, and we'll be able to set that down in the cup to help hold it up. But then I took a solo cup and cut the bottom out of it and put it in the deal. That'll keep it open, and this makes this way easier to utilize this filling of the piping bag. All right, so how long you wait is going to depend on your temperature, your humidity. Today we have a lot of wind, so this is really setting up quickly. So what I'm going to do is take my tuck point tool, and we're just going to kind of go through here and create the desired look that you want for your mortar joint. And this allows you to kind of push it around, fill in some of the spots maybe that didn't fill in the way you wanted to with your piping bag. But we're just go through here and sculpt it the way you want it to look. And if you need to add a little mortar to it, you can, because like I said, you can start and stop with mortar. So even if you get done, a day later and you decide there's something that you don't like, you just put a little mortar in there and let it set up and go. So what after I'm done sculpting this, like I'm doing, and getting it the way I kind of like it, then it kind of has a rough look to it. Now, you may want that rough look. There's no right or wrong here. How do you want it to look? But my wife wanted this to look a little softer, so I'm bringing a brush after I've kind of got it like that, and I'm just going to use the combination of the tools to smooth this all out. This gives it a much smoother texture. It's not wet. You can wet this. The manufacturer kind of frowns on that a little bit, but on occasion, if I have a choice that's kind of got away from me or something, I'll tap it with just a touch of water. Just remember, the drier the mix, the stronger the bond. So that's why they don't want you to use a whole lot of water in this process. Plus, your mortar was pretty wet when you squeezed it in there with the piping bag. So you can see I just kind of used both tools to sculpt this the way I want it. At the beginning of the video, we talked about having to adhere to several different surfaces. So we already did the one where we're putting it over the plywood, where we had to use the expanded wire mesh. We're going to do concrete block here, and then I have a surface that's actual poured concrete. With the poured concrete, we don't have to do anything special. We can just use the mortar and stick it directly to the concrete columns. This, however, is concrete block. Little different chemical composition. So what we need to do is put a scratch coat on this, let it fully cure, then we can put the corner pieces on for our stoning. So what we want to do is, I've gone back to my regular mix of mortar, which is a little on the dry side, not real dry, kind of mayonnaise like. And then you get to choose what type of a trowel you want to use. These are tile trowels. This one's got a really fine serrated edge. This one's got a 1/4 inch serrated edge. You can use either one. I prefer this one because I end up with smaller ridges for the mortar to stick to, but you can use either one. I'll just get this one dirty for you just to show you. But either way, what you're wanting to do is leave a ridge there so that the new mortar will have something to stick to. But I like the looks and the feel of the smaller, so that's what we're going to use here. And it's the same thing. You're just going to smear it on there. We're looking for somewhere between 1/4 to 3/8. So what you're looking for is to end up with a flat surface. You don't want humps or anything like that. So you just go along there, fill in any low spots you might have. Now I'm going to do this on all 4 sides. Let that dry, then I'll have a scratch coat ready to receive the blocks. Okay, so once you get all of your grout lines put in, you may discover later, and this could be days later or months later, you may discover that there's little spots that you missed or that you didn't like. Just mix up a new batch of mortar, take your tuck pointing tool or your finger, and just go back in there. This is what I love about mortar. You can fix this. If a big chunk of this falls out, you just fix it. Just go get you some mortar, tap it in there, and then just leave it be. I mean, it's just that easy. It's so easy to repair this or fix this. And when you're done, you're going to find maybe a air bubble or something has popped. Just go back later and fix it. Same thing, you just go back through here and just clean it up as you want to. That's our project for today. I appreciate you watching. Be sure and like and subscribe.
Are you interested in woodworking or home repair? If so, please look at maintenanceminute.net. Hi, I'm Jim Viebrock, and I'm the host of Maintenance Minute. From my website, you can watch videos on how to build a variety of arts and crafts projects, full-on woodworking builds, and home repair and remodeling tips, too. We recently added an archive section where you can see over 40 years of projects that I have built. Please take a moment and visit maintenanceminute.net.